Yeah. So if your heart is stopped, this is no good to you. No good to you. Okay? That's not to say you won't put it on. Okay? So, this is looking for a very specific rhythm. Okay? And I spoke about it back at the start of the video where the heart is fluttering. Okay? And you might, if you watch any of the old television programs and all these American dramas, you will hear VF, okay, or ventricular fibrillation. The heart is fluttering, okay, but it's not actually pumping blood correctly. What we need to do is we need to reset the mechanism of the heart, okay, and if this guy sees that the heart is fluttering, he'll say, yes, we can give a shock, and yes, we give a shock. What happens when we give the shock? We actually stop that person's heart. So this is actually a heart stopper. Okay?
It's like a reset button.
It's like a reset button, correct? So, in your heart, it's a fantastic piece of technology, your heart. But in your heart, there's a thing called an SA node, and that's what gives the electrical impulse to keep your heart going. Okay? And basically what we need to do is we need to, like you do on your phone there, you press the reset button, or on the computer or whatever, you just press the reset button, and that's exactly what we're doing here. We're pressing that reset button on the heart. We shock the heart with this guy, it stops the heart, and we're hoping then that the heart will naturally balance itself correctly by that SA node. Okay. So, yeah. So a lot of people think that, someone's heart is stopped, we put this on, we press shock, and we actually kickstart. It's like going out to a car that doesn't start in the morning, you don't have to jump start it.
That's exactly it, I was.
Yeah, so we're not actually jump starting a heart.
Stopping it.
We're stopping a heart. Okay? We're stopping an incorrectly beating heart.
It's not to use for murder.
If we put this on...
Ready? Ready? I'm sorry, by the way.
If we put this on someone that does not require a shock, this will know that and will not allow you to be sick. Right? I'm going to push that button, yeah? So,
Don't push it.
You
don't get away from the president, alright?
This guy will tell you when and when not to give a shock. If it says no shock advised, then you just say continue CPR. So the heart could be in a rhythm that this doesn't need to shock, but what's really important is that we continue doing the CPR.
Yeah, and when you take that out, how do you walk it? What way do you clip it onto the body?
I'm going to show you all that now.
Can you do the compression and change the rate? The heartbeat, and can that bring in that into the range for that to pick it up?
Not necessarily, no. The heart normally goes into VF itself naturally, okay, and the heart can only maintain VF for a certain period of time, and then it goes beyond the point where this is actually beneficial. What's needed then is you need, most certainly you need the ambulance service rolling in the door behind you, and they're giving different medications. So they're giving epinephrine, which will, it's an adrenaline that will kind of kickstart the heart. No, it may or may not. Okay, there's big debates out there as to whether or not is adrenaline actually kind of has kick-started the heart. The heart could be in lots of other things that we, as Joe Public, as Cork First Responders, we don't need to know where you're going to have pulseless electrical activity. So the heart will have electrical activity, but there's physically it's not pumping. So there's electricity going into the pump, but the pump isn't actually pushing the blood around. And the only way to see all those things is you need to have one of the 20 grand machines that the National Ambulance Service carry, and they can look at it and say, he's in VF, or he's in pulseless VF, or he's in this, that, and the other. But what's really important for that patient is whether it was in that. Okay?
Excuse me, does your telephone have something similar to this? Because we're told that there's apps for everything now.
There's apps for everything, but there's not an app that
will be the same as that.
You can get, some with the cameras, but certainly the likes of your Apple Watch, you can look at your pulse. It can kind of look at a trace of your heart or whatever.
Yes.
They're not 100% accurate, but they can give you a little early.
It gives you a chance.
Indications, maybe it's time to go see the doctor or whatever.
Right. Okay. So we'd stay with this preferably.
We stay with this preferably. Okay. So, as I said, there's a number of these going to be put up around the place by penny dinners, okay? So, when one of these arrives, the most important thing really is that we get it onto the person straight away. We need to have the patient exposed, in the sense of we need the pads to be able to stick. I'm going to run a video, we'll talk to you.
I think so too, yeah.
Okay, so...
do you put this on now after compressing?
So two things. One, if you're on your own, okay, and you know that there's a defibrillator outside here, and Fred is after collapsing here on the ground, I'm going to run calling for help, but I'm going to try and grab that defibrillator at the same time and bring this back, because this could save Fred, okay, because it can shock his heart or whatever. Equally, if I said, I'm going to do compressions, you get a defibrillator and come back and call the ambulance. When you come back, the minute this comes back, ideally, if people have some bit of experience like you're getting here today, one person can still be doing compressions while the other person is physically putting this together. And I call it assembling it, but there's nowadays there's no assembly involved. You just open the packaging and you put on the pads, you turn on the machine, and the machine does the rest. Okay? And while this machine is going on, and while it's getting to a point where it's going to analyse that heart, it's going to look at the heart and see whether or not do I need to give that shock, yes or no. Compressions can be ongoing. When it needs to analyse, it'll say, do not touch, okay? And then that's where it's looking for electrical activity between the two pads. So the machine is looking for electrical activity. If it doesn't see it, or if it sees the specific one, it'll then say charging or whatever, shock, okay? Again, the machine will take a couple of seconds, a light will light up to say that it's ready to shock, and then you need to just make sure no one is touching the patient. Press the button, the shock goes in a millisecond. Patient stiffens up a little bit when they relax, and immediately start your CPR again. So, in the ideal world, we are never off that person's chest for more than 10 seconds. Okay? Yeah.
Just one thing. I remember when I used to watch the films, they used to keep giving the shock.
Yeah, so different environments, okay? So there are hospital environments. They're also shocking at different ranges. So you'll always hear them saying charge 150, charge 200, charge 300, whatever. They're increasing the level of joules that they're putting into the patient.
Yes.
This is automatic.
Right, so you only needed the once.
Foolproof.
It could do it a few times, right?
That's only to suffice until...
It does, yeah. And there's a built-in timer inside of this. And remember we were saying we're only good for about 2 minutes of CPR? Every 2 minutes, this will say, do not touch the patient, analyse it. So it's going to look every 2 minutes, do I need to give shock, yes or no? Okay, so every 2 minutes, this is what this one is doing. When it comes to the National Ambulance Service, they're making a clinical decision. So they're looking at a screen, and they can say, oh, he's in VF, and they can see it on their screen. They're not waiting for this to time down and go analyse it. They can look, they can charge, and they can just say to Fred, we're going to shock, charged, machine is charged, hands off, boom, shock, hand straight back onto the chest and compress away. Okay? But for us, we have to wait for this to analyse. It'll decide whether to shock, yes or no. We push the button, yes or no, and we start our compressions. And we keep doing that for as long as we physically can, until literally that person stands up and walks out the door, which isn't going to happen. They're going to come around slowly. A lot of people ask, how do I know when to stop? Okay? When you start to see signs of life. Yeah? You can then start to stop your compressions and stuff like that. So, Freddie's doing his compressions. Before we withdraw compressions there, Fred. So, when you get your defibrillators up in your walls outside, there's going to be should be a couple of things within your defibrillators. Okay? We don't have them at all, but there's a razor and one of them there, which I know.
Are they going to be around the town now as well?
These are already around the town. There's a number of these already around the town, and you're getting
you have to ring the ambulance service to get the code to get at them.
Correct. Yeah. Worst case scenario, there's a bit of perspex in the front of it. Punch it, it'll push in, take the defibrillator. The most important thing really is that you get it. You get it, okay, and then someone needs to know that defibrillator has been used, because there's no point in putting the pads onto the patient here, discarding the pads, closing it up and putting the box back. Yeah? There's no pads in it. Okay? So there's no telephone number on the box to contact whoever, and they'll replenish the pads anyway. So, inside the defibrillator, you should have some form of a rag or a sponge, because if it's wet, the pads aren't going to adhere to the patient's skin. There should be preferably something like that. I have one there, but this would be something like the shears, okay? Because again, if we're wearing, we'd say jumpers and stuff like that, we need to, cut up. So ideally we try to cut down, as opposed to kind of cutting up towards someone's neck if at all possible, we try and cut down, okay? Equally, you know, with the female population, we just need to, into the middle of the bra, cut and peel left and right. Okay, because we can't use defibrillators, especially the underwire bras. There's metal inside them, so we need to expose equally.
Here you go.
Hairy women, okay, there's a little razor. What? I'm saying my chest. You want to three left. So there should be some form of a razor as well, because if people have hairy chests, okay, we need to, they don't need to be beautifully groomed, okay? We are only placing 2 pads, okay? 1 pad is going on this side up here, and the other pad is going down here. So we don't need to actually groom the whole chest. We just need to expose an area where we're physically putting that pad, okay? If your defibrillator comes with 2 pads, okay? No, the person wants to be excessively hairy, but if you had 2 lots of pads, you could give them. You could give them
Bring my suit.
you could give them a waxing from the body. You put on the first pad, you give it a good rub in, okay, and then whip it off as fast as you can, and that will take the hair.
Probably wake up big.
You can wake up, absolutely, So, because I suppose that's where you're going to have your failures with the fibs and stuff like that. No, that's something that you need to check regularly. Your cabinets are going to be heated on the outside, but batteries and stuff like that is the biggest failure of any of those LEDs. They're out in the open, they don't like the cold, it's hard on the batteries. Batteries are sealed, they only last for a certain number of years to replenish the batteries, but there's nothing worse than opening a defib thinking that, oh yes, I'm going to save this person, and you turn it on and it goes, warning, low battery, right, and it's dead in the water. So,
You're not getting power pack with it now, so basically like
No.
No?
The battery lasts about 5 years to 7 years on some of them, and the battery itself is just maintaining a charge. It's only when it detects that it needs a shock that the battery builds up charge inside the defibrillator to then send it. So that's why it just takes a few
You only
seconds.
use once then, is it? And then they have to go
no. The pads will be good for a number of shocks.
Yeah,
The pads can only
new pads
use
each
once.
time.
Come on, Freddie.
I do have friends.
The pads can only be used once. The pads can be used once.
Yeah,
But you replace the
exactly. New pads
pads
in person.
again.
Yeah.
Thanks, Roy.
Sorry, friend. I was just.
That's what I would say every time you shoot so make sure you ring up and
It's the pads that you replace more so than the batteries.
Like the ones we have in our cars, we keep 2 sets of pads. So we use one, and we got another one, and we order another one to go in with it.
Right.
If we can.
So ideally you should always have 2 sets of pads, because if one doesn't adhere to the chest, you can just whip off one and put on the second.
Right.
Okay, so pretty much most AEDs that are on the market out there are all pictograms, okay, so they have pictures and stuff like that to kind of tell you what to do. Some of them are automated from the point of view that once you pop the lid, so they're like a press button and the lid pops open, it turns itself on automatically. And the likes of iPads, which there's a number of these around the city already in boxes. These guys here have an on-off button, and the first thing we need to do when you open an AED is push that, because it'll start talking to us. Okay?
Hello, Freddie.
Call emergency medical
So if
services
you haven't
now.
already called the ambulance, tell them to call. Right? It's also
Call
telling
from the
you
voice prompt call lane.
it's in the adult
Remove
mode.
all clothing from chest and stomach. Rip clothing if
Fairly
necessary.
from home.
Come here. Just,
Take out the
Well,
pad
it'd be
from
handy
the bottom of the
now, right?
buttons.
if
System
something like
shutting
that
down.
happen, and you have to break one of them or get into one of them, that the minute you turn that on, it should send a signal to the ambulance people.
I will write that down, and I will say it to them.
And that's, no, and then they know where exactly you went off and can respond themselves,
Good?
you know?
Yeah. And you know what? I would figure in time, you're absolutely right. That's what will happen. Because all things
No,
are.
saying, right, then rushing for your phone, doing all that, it gives you more time to say something as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. No, there's technology in it that they can actually download. So after this has been used, they can actually download the information, take it with the patient, as to how many shots and how the compressions, because this will be analysing all of that.
The problem with that though is that you need a bigger battery, you need
Yeah, absolutely.
you basically need to attach an iPhone to it or something,
Yeah.
or like another type of phone to it, like, so.
So, oh yeah, and like they're expensive enough as it is. These guys are normally inside in a bag that you open. Okay, we can get them out here. Okay, so again, there's pictures. Okay, so if you look at the pictures, okay, it's got a 1 and a 2, and it tells you which pad goes where. Okay, when one is putting on the pads, don't peel off the 2 pads together. Peel them off one at a time, because otherwise you'll be left with 2 sticky pads, and how am I going to? And you'll end up with your face.
Yeah, they do. They stick them together and they're trying to put them apart.
These are training, so the adhesive in these is not as bad as the real pads, but believe me, if 2 pads accidentally stick together, you will not separate them. Okay? So you need to just look clearly at the pictures. The packaging, as I said, that these come in are normally sealed bags. There's expiry dates, there's this, that, and the other. Just get familiar with the AEDs that you have, or equally when you open it, look at how to open the packaging. The amount of people that, because the wires come out of the packaging, so the bag is sealed and the wires are sticking out, the amount of people that will pull the wires, okay, and they're left with wires, and the pads are still within the bag, okay. We have this lovely scissors, and they say, oh yeah, I'm going to cut open the bag, and then straight through the wires as well, or straight through the pads. Okay, so look at the packaging that they come with. The packaging normally has like a little tear, like a bag of sweets, where there's a little tear line, just tear it, and the pads will come out. A lot of the time the bags actually stay here, because the wires pass through the bag. So when you tear the bag open, the bag is still stuck to the wires here, but the pads will slide out. So you just need to be familiar with the device that you're actually using.
So I was just going to say, for someone that wouldn't kind of be able to do a course, they'd not want to put a poster up or something like that.
As I say, like the machines will tell you, but they're quite slow in telling you what to do. And if you know, we're saying that about 10 seconds off the chest is the maximum. If we're listening to the floor that this is talking about here, we can start counting here, or 10 seconds.
Call emergency medical services now. Adult mode. Follow the voice prompt calling. Remove all clothing from chest and stomach. Rip clothing if necessary. Take out the pads from the bottom of the device.
So in this one, they're here, normally the bottom.
Tear open the pad packaging.
So we open the packaging. Call the undertaker.
20 seconds. He's out to get up on the way.
So look closely at the picture.
Peel off the pad number 1 and stick to the bare skin of the patient. Exactly as shown in the picture.
Number 1, stick to the patient.
Peel off the pad labeled 2 and stick to the bare skin of the patient. Exactly as shown in the picture.
Okay.
Press the pads firmly to the bare skin of the
How
patient.
many seconds is that?
45
Do not touch the patient.
Okay.
Analyzing heart rhythm.
So we're not touching the patient, it's analyzing.
Shock advised. Stand clear. Press the flashing orange button now. Deliver shock
It's
now.
only now when that is flashing will the shock actually go into the
Press the
patient.
flashing red eye button.
And if you don't press it within a certain period of time, it dissipates that shock. Okay, it won't stay alive in the machine, it'll get rid of it. Okay, so you need to be, someone needs to be listening to the machine. Now, in the ideal world, you know the type of AED that you have, okay, you're familiar with it. So, normally what happens in the ideal world is that when you zip it open,
System shutting down.
and you turn it on, okay, you take out your pads immediately. You remove your
Call
wallet.
emergency medical
Yeah, ready?
services
I just put
now.
a pad there, lift your hands.
Adult mode.
Right, one on,
Follow the
okay.
voice prompt calling.
And I just put the other one
Remove
there.
all clothing
Okay,
from
so
chest
the
and
minute
stomach.
the pads are on,
Rip clothing. Do not touch
ready,
the
don't touch
patient.
the patient.
Analyzing heart rhythm.
Okay, everyone clear, so I'm ready here. Everyone clear?
Shock advised.
Shock advised, everyone clear?
Stand clear. Press the
Right,
flashing.
shock down in. Credit back on the chest, right? So how many seconds was
Begin
that?
CPR now. Press the flashing blue
A lot less, because I
or
know
CPR
where the
voice
pads are
prompt.
going. I know what it's doing.
Reanalyzing
Yeah?
heart rhythm.
So,
2 minutes.
the machine we keep giving you the voice prompts until such time as that pad and that pad are on the body. You can then see connectivity between those pads. If
The faster you get on, the faster
so the faster we get on, then the pad's on, the faster the machine is going to analyse, the faster we can get the shock in.
So when you stop,
Yeah, so one just goes over to press up here, yeah, and then one just on the side. Why you want to do it because the electrical shock is going a specific way through the body. That's why, so that's why there's pictures on the pads, so there's physically pictures on the pads that you put them on. If someone is wearing something like a necklace, okay, we don't necessarily need to take it off, we just need to put it slightly back up on the neck. What we don't want is that the necklace is coming down low here, because what will happen is the electricity from this pad to this pad will take the path of least resistance, which is jump onto the wire, travel across the, or the chain I should say, travel through the chain and into the other pad. It didn't actually go through my physical body.
So there's one go on the chest and two to the left.
Yeah, so number one is coming up here, just above the breast here, yeah, and number two is coming
That's
there.
fine, yeah,
Yeah.
just wonder which goes with it.
If the person is wet, so if you drag someone out of the water, you just need to have something like a bit of towelling. If you don't have towelling left, look, just put the skin. The skin doesn't have to be bone dry. Ideally, they're not in water, but if they're lying on the ground outside, it's okay.
20 seconds.
Again, ideally, no one is touching the person at that point in time, because otherwise the shock, you may end up getting a little bit of a shock. Chances are slim, okay, but they all say don't touch. Equally, when it's analysing, we don't want to be touching, because if I'm touching here, it could be picking up I call it a pulse from here.
Analyzing heart rhythm.
Okay, so that's 2 minutes now while I've been blabbering on here. No one touched the
No
patient.
shock advised.
No shock advised, we just go straight back onto the chest.
Begin CPR now.
And that's going to turn
Press
it
the
in for
flashing
another 2
blue
minutes.
I button for CPR voice prompt. First.
So, these ones have a metronome, so we can just compress it into that, right?
Really, it's very self-explanatory, isn't it?
Yeah, so you could put a little child into a room, give them an AED, give them a mannequin, and
They'd probably know how to use it better.
So, any questions on an AED?
So can we just recap a little bit? So, person collapses, what's the first thing we do? Before we check the airway,
Say hello.
before we say hello,
call the ambulance.
before we call the ambulance,
Make sure the coach is carrying
make sure that
the
so scene safety, right? I know you'll do it, but just part of our little exam, first thing we do is check scene safety. Second thing we do then is, so before we check for breathing, we just go, hello, 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 can you hear me?
The ambulance responsible.
So we don't call the ambulance, because if we call the ambulance, he might be asleep. And we haven't determined yet what's wrong. So we call the ambulance after we do a look, listen and feel. So the third thing we do is look, listen and feel. So then we look to see is there anything in their mouth, because if there is, we could remove it, that's what caused the heart attack in the first place. We tilt back their head, we listen, we put our hand on the chest for how long?
10 seconds, no longer than 10 seconds.
Excellent. Now you could go longer than 10, but you're just wasting time at that point, right? If the area was noisy, maybe you might want to do it longer, but that's our kind of goal. So now we've checked for more than 6 seconds and not more than 10, and we realise that there are no breaths. So what do we do now?
Tilt the head back, close the over,
Okay.
there's some stuff in it.
So when we did our look, listen and feel, we were kind of doing all that in one go. All this can be done in seconds. You look in, nothing in his thing, down, listen. 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 6, no breathing. Now, I now know, this is the first time I now know the patient isn't breathing.
Call for help.
Thank you. You now need to get help. Tell one of your colleagues, call for an ambulance, get help, get a defib, all that stuff. You in the green jacket, go get help. Sorry. So there's a program on TV and you might keep saying, you in the blue jacket. So, alright, so now help's on the way, so what do we do now to try and keep them going? You're all into the clothes, taking the clothes off? It's like the first thing she thinks of. the top off.
Leave the socks on.
If it's a guy who has a t-shirt on, why are we removing clothing? What's the reason for that?
But if they have been pads used.
So pads definitely, but we haven't got pads yet, so on the way.
Is it for the confession, then why should we do the confessions?
You want to know exactly where you're going to do them, so you can landmark it. But if you use a t-shirt on it, you can definitely figure it out, yeah?
Yeah.
So, you know, you can leave the clothing on, like if you have a big jacket on, you have to obviously remove that. But anyway, they're in a cardiac arrest, so we need to landmark properly. Then when the defib arrives, we definitely need to have the clothing removed, yeah?
So you can come in at that time then?
Yeah. Now you're on. Now your defib has arrived.
With the razor.
Head out to the razor. Right, do some fancy razor work. And stick pads on here and here.
Bring it on that.
And then make sure you turn it on, and now it's beginning to work. And you're still doing CPR, so you'll see the lads, they continue to do CPR while the pads are stuck on. And now we've help on the way, we've pads on, the thing is analysing, we're keeping the oxygen going around the body, we're doing everything we could possibly do to keep them alive. So that entire scenario is the exam that you all have to do. We'll be watching each person and we tick all the little boxes, and that's important. But it's that sequence. So what we're going to do is we'll just do that sequence now, get everyone to do it from start to finish. We'll do it still in groups of 2. We get one person to do it and then the second person to do it, and then we'll be wandering on and just make sure everyone is doing it. So if you can just try and remember that sequence, and then we'll do the exam. Yeah.